Lesson 1, Section 1, Dopamine, Remove all vices. Now before I explain dopamine and the mechanics of dopamine and how your brain works, I first want to explain the benefits. By implementing this course, you'll become more happy, more extroverted, more outgoing, you'll become more grateful, you'll become more intelligent, you'll get out of a rut, and you will achieve goals with ease. Let's get straight into it. Here we have your brain. This is your brain. And today's class will be about dopamine. What is dopamine? Well, dopamine is a neurotransmitter in your brain. Let me draw this out for you. Your brain has got all these little neurotransmitters, and they're powered by energy. Let me redraw that one. They're powered by your brain's energy, your brain's calories. And what happens? So these are your neurotransmitters, and let's get a close up. You have one part of the transmitter that is receiving, so it's got holes. It is receiving dopamine, and it's sending signals back into your brain, which gives you the feeling of having a pleasurable experience. And then we have another neurotransmitter that is firing off dopamine. So it shoots dopamine, and a second neurotransmitter accepts it. So now that you understand how dopamine works, I'm going to explain what it is and what it does. Many people believe that dopamine is a pleasure chemical, but quite frankly, it isn't. It is the molecule of motivation. When dopamine is high, we have motivation, which is also high. The more dopamine you have currently flowing through your system, the more energy and motivation you will have. Once again, dopamine does not equal pleasure. Dopamine is not responsible for pleasure, and it never was. Dopamine is purely the chemical of motivation, drive, and energy. So now that you know how dopamine works and what it does, I'm going to explain how you can biohack dopamine to increase your quality of life. So there are two ways to increase your dopamine. One, you can do it synthetically, which will destroy your dopamine receptors and later on give you a dopamine crash. Going back to our neurotransmitter, the more you fire off dopamine, the more you receive it, the less receptors you will actually have. This is the synthetic way of increasing your dopamine. So the synthetic way of increasing your dopamine is through cigarettes, alcohol, porn, drugs, junk food. This is the synthetic way of doing it. If you do it the synthetic way, you will damage your dopamine receptors, and therefore it will lead to a dopamine crash. And not only will you experience a dopamine crash in the short run, you'll also experience lower dopamine neurotransmitter receptors over the long run. The more you stimulate your dopamine the synthetic way, the less dopamine your brain will actually be able to consume. And now we have the healthy way. And the healthy way actually increases your dopamine neurotransmitter density. These things could be cold showers, meditation, working out, dieting, and even starting a business. Now the difference between the synthetic way and the healthy way, I think you already know that the synthetic way actually increases your pleasure. The more pleasurable experience you get from a synthetic way of increasing your dopamine, the more pain you'll notice in the future. And same goes the other way. So the more pain you go through in the present moment, the more dopamine released will be in the future. So there has been a study conducted on men taking cold showers. After taking a cold shower for 3 to 5 minutes, they've noticed a 300% increase in dopamine. Same goes for working out. If you want to increase your dopamine, go work out, go take a cold shower, go do something hard, go do something that gives you pain, suffering, or boredom. Let me explain this again. The synthetic way of increasing your dopamine leads to a short-term spike, long-term crash. Short-term spike and long-term crash. That is the result of increasing your dopamine synthetically. Now what would happen if you started reading books, if you started a business, if you started reading, if you started dieting, if you started doing things that are technically hard, but in the long run, it will reward you for doing so? This will cause a short-term crash, but a long-term increase. And notice that I said increase instead of spike, because increasing your dopamine the healthy way won't spike it so much. The only thing you could do is do high intensity workouts or cold showers. Those are the only ways you can spike your dopamine, the natural way and the healthy way. But other than those two activities, I mean, generally reading books and dieting in business are kind of boring. But boredom is still on the pain index. Boredom is a painful emotion, which, therefore, will increase your dopamine in the long run. I hope you found this class useful. And once again, I'll repeat the benefits of increasing your dopamine the healthy way. You become more outgoing, you feel happier, you're more intelligent, you have more focus, you'll become an extrovert, you'll remove brain fog, and you complete your goals with absolute ease. I hope you found this helpful.